Hey everyone, welcome to a very special edition of Johnny Vlogs. As you can see, I've got the headphones on, which usually means we're talking to someone today. And I have to say, this is one of my favorite previous guests. We are talking to Cory Nickols from Destiny Rescue. What they do is amazing. I think of these people as real life superheroes, and I do take that sentence very seriously. You guys know how much I appreciate my superheroes. So with all that being said, we're going to jump right into it. I do want to note that anyone that is a new Patreon supporter, we're going to be talking about you guys next week. We've got so much to cover. I know this episode's going to run really long, so it's not that I don't appreciate you guys, but we will get you your shout outs that are due to you next week. So with all that being said, let's welcome Cory. Hey, Cory.
Hey, Johnny, how's it going? It's an honor to be on your show again.
Yeah, thank you so much. And we were just talking before we started recording. Yeah, this is actually the fourth time that we've chatted. I'm really excited about it. I know I talked about this a bit the last time we interviewed you, but you've just got this amazing energy and enthusiasm. And it really helps as a counterbalance to what is an extremely tough topic. And that is talking about child trafficking, particularly internationally. But when we did talk last time, you did mention that there is potentially some plans to start working within the U.S. as well. Has that developed any further?
It's developed in terms of us continuing to raise awareness of the issue. I think we're bringing light to light this issue, the issue of human trafficking, and really inspiring people, whether they want to focus their work domestically, how they get involved, or if they want to focus on it internationally. Right. I think, knowledge is power. When you bring to light an issue and you expose it for what it is, it empowers people to get involved. So currently, that is our way that we allow people to get involved with our organization in the United States. You can obviously give financially. We're raising awareness, funds, and talent for the ongoing work of our organization and other organizations fighting this fight on the front lines.
Yeah, and it is just such a big topic. Obviously, the international concerns are huge around this, but we do hear about it happening on U.S. soil as well. In a lot of missing persons cases, particularly if it's a young lady that goes missing, ultimately at some point the family will always consider, could this be a human trafficking situation? So I really appreciate your guys' approach to this, that you're working so hard to understand this issue and you're working on it all around the world. So you're getting a very good a bunch of experience that is going to be able to be used to fight this worldwide, which I guess is ultimately your intentions, right?
It is. Our mission is to end child sexual slavery worldwide, including here in the United States. We believe that no child should ever have to work at night in terms of working in the sex industry, but they should be able to sleep knowing that they are loved, valued, and given their dignity back, whether that's here in the United States or in every country around the world. And our heart and mission is to stomp out this injustice and this evil, ensure kids get justice, that bad people are put behind bars, and that our world is a much safer place for children to grow up and ultimately become everything that God created them to be.
Yeah, it's an amazing mission. Cory, so I think your title has changed a little bit. What's your title now, and what are you doing with Destiny Rescue?
It is. So my title, again, has changed. I'm now the Director of Strategic Partnerships, focusing on our larger partnerships in the United States. And I've been promoted to being the Chief Spokesperson for our organization. So when we get news interviews or television opportunities or large platform opportunities to speak on behalf of our organization, I have the wonderful privilege of representing our organization. So it's humbling. There's others that speak nationally on our behalf as well. So I'm not the only one, but they've put me in that position, and by God's grace, I'll do a great job at that. So
yeah, and congratulations on that with the new level of responsibility. And I can't think of anyone that would be as good at that position. Just like I said, with the energy and enthusiasm you have and the experience, you are a former rescuer yourself.
That's correct. I used to live overseas in Thailand. I was there for a year and a half. I started out with our organization as their senior writer and eventually their international media director. And through that, I had to have firsthand experience of our work and what we did on the front lines in terms of rescue, as well as understanding the healing process that's needed to take place inside our aftercare programs. And really the greater issue of how kids end up in the sex industry, why parents would sell their children, or what creates vulnerability where children and families are at risk to being approached by a trafficker and easily tricked or coerced. So that's where I started my work. And it was through all of those experiences that my heart began to stir actually to come back to the United States and really bring to light this issue and empower people to get involved in this fight financially or using their talents, whatever that may be, to engage this fight and put them to use. So, yes.
Excellent. So you've kind of already gone over the mission of Destiny Rescue, but that's one of the things that I appreciate about you guys is you're not looking at one particular link in the chain of problems. You're really looking at every aspect you can. You're trying to figure out how these situations are getting started in the first place. You're trying to take children out of these situations. And then you've got aftercare that is going on where you're trying to keep them out of that situation, but also develop skills for them so that they can make money in other ways in the world, contribute to their families if they want to do that, but mainly to take care of themselves.
That's correct. And so we operate in many different ways. First of all, our heart is that no child who is trapped in the sex industry would ever have to remain there. Some kids are being raped 3, 4, 5, 10, 15, even 20 times a night. It's not on average 20, but there are kids literally being raped that many times. Yeah. And our heart is that no child should ever have to endure that horrific abuse, but they're free to live out their destiny really free of abuse. And so we have undercover agents that go into these dark places where trafficking is known to exist. We work closely with anti-trafficking police and top government law enforcement agencies like the equivalent of the US FBI. So we're getting tip-offs from them, and we work with them and we work independently from them in these countries. But when we're working in these countries, we have what we call a memo of understanding that we can do what we do in these countries. So the government and police and law enforcement know what we're doing, working in coordination with them. We actually, because we've been doing this so long, we've been doing this for 16 years now, and we're becoming experts in this field where we're rescuing hundreds and hundreds of kids each year. This last year alone, we rescued 620 children out of the sex industry and sexually exploited situations. Since 2011, we rescued over 2,600 children, and we're literally rescuing kids every day. And so law enforcement, they're like, how are you rescuing this many kids? And we are working alongside them to train them. We're working together to help equip them in a better way. We rescue kids, but it's not enough just to rescue them. You have to meet the root causes or understand the root causes of how that child ended up in the sex industry. And usually it has to do with vulnerability in their family. Leading causes is the instability or breakdown of family and poverty. Our leading causes in almost every story of one of the victims that we rescue, you can link it back to poverty and or the instability and breakdown of family, which then ultimately can relate or cause poverty. For example, you might have two parents that love their child or their children, but all of a sudden the father falls ill and dies. Right. Now all of a sudden the sole breadwinner in the family is no longer there, and the mother, who was a stay-at-home mom working to take care of the kids, now has to be the sole breadwinner in the family. And they can't do that. And on top of that, they may have taken on a debt of health of a
end of life costs
that took place while that father was in the hospital.
Right.
So you have to meet and understand the dynamics of how the child ended up there, and then our caseworkers develop a plan to not only help the child but the family, so that you're strengthening the entire family unit moving forward. Not only that, it's not enough just to rescue these kids. You need to put people behind bars that are taking advantage of these kids. And so we work with law enforcement to provide justice and put bad people behind bars. We've had more than several. We've had multiple raids this year, including our largest raid to date take place this year in the various countries that we work in, to shut down brothels, to arrest brothel owners and those perpetrating these children, and so that they can no longer take advantage of kids and families.
Yeah. And
then what we'll do is we will go into those villages where this trafficking is known to exist, and we will educate village leaders, the families. And so it's preventative measures that go into not just dealing with what happened to the child that was fell victim to human trafficking, but we're also educating these village people so that they can steer clear of traffickers and those wanting to take advantage of their children in the future. And so it's very holistic. We have an enormous success rate of keeping kids out of the sex industry once we rescue them. It's 80%. And I can get into, in previous years, it was 70%, but we're growing and finding out better ways of providing aftercare that's really meeting the needs of the child and the family and the village community. So it's a very holistic approach.
Excellent. I think at this point, I want to go ahead and introduce a film that Destiny Rescue is being kind enough to let us show here on the channel. This is a film called Red Shoes, and I think this is going to give you guys a very good taste of some of the emotional aspect that they're dealing with and a little bit of what they have to do to help save these children. So please check out Red Shoes.
I remember one night I got a phone call from one of the boys. He was in a brothel. He was really desperate. He said he had a 13-year-old girl and there was heaps of guys that were trying to take this kid off him, and he was scared he was going to get violent. So one of the boys and I jumped on our bikes and we headed straight over there, and it was quite a small, grubby little bar, about 4 or 5 tables. All of them were filled with guys drinking beer and basically staring at the young girls that were handing out the drinks. And I went over and sat down at the table with the boys, and as I did, I noticed in the back corner there looked like a stairwell going down underneath the floor. So I snuck over there and went down those stairs to see what was down there. And as I got down there, I could see they'd dug out underneath the brothel and built roughly about 7 small rooms. And it was just like a thick smell of stale sweat. It was really quite disgusting. And I walked around the corner, and as soon as I got around there, I could see straight away these pair of small red shoes that some kid had obviously kicked off as she was taken into the room. And as I stood there feeling really helpless, I could hear what was going on in that room. And I remember standing there realising what that 13-year-old kid that we had up at the table upstairs, what she would have to do every single night. And I knew if we didn't do something tonight, she would end up down here at some point doing what that girl was doing right then. So I went back upstairs and sat down next to that kid. And as I did that, the agent leant over to me and he said, this girl's been here for about a week, and every night, usually 4 or 5 times, she gets taken downstairs and she's forced to have sex with customers and basically raped by these violent men. And I looked over at this kid and she was looking at me, and her eyes just, she was petrified, and it was like she was begging me to do something to get her out of that place. So I called the mama-san, the brothel owner, over, and I said I wanted to take this kid back to my hotel room, and we negotiated a price to do that. In the brothel owner's mind, I was taking her away to have sex, but what was really happening is we were taking her away to her freedom. And we just stood up, and this kid took my hand, and we walked out that brothel. She jumped on the back of my bike, and we took off to one of our rescue homes. And as we arrived, I looked back and I just saw this gorgeous smile on this kid's face as she realised that what we were saying was true. And she went to bed, and I think she slept for 1 or 2 days, which is quite normal. And something these kids often say is, you know, that's the first time I can remember in a long time that I've been able to go to bed and just sleep. And you know, my dream is that all children will be able to go to bed and sleep and not work. I have a photo on my mobile phone of those little red shoes as a constant reminder that there's still one more out there. One more kid worth rescuing, never to stop. Every kid is worth the risk, worth the love, worth the cost.
I was moved very much when I first saw that video. I'm sure many of you are as well. Cory, can you tell us a little about Tony? Is it Kirwan?
Kerwin. Tony Kerwin.
Can you tell us a little about Tony Kerwin?
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to. He's our founder and international president. He's an incredible man that has a huge heart for exploited kids. His journey began as he's from Australia, as you could tell from the video, his accent. But he grew up supporting organizations that help children around the world, but realized he wanted to do more than that. And he was an electrician that had a successful career. And he had just built a brand new home for he and his family. And he had this stirring in his heart. He needed to do more. So they sold literally everything and moved overseas to work for an organization that was dealing with families and children in the developing world. Well, it was in that moment that he heard of a man being offered children for sex for $300 or $400 for multiple children. And it so broke his heart. He had 2 daughters at the time, now 3, but at the time he had 2. And it so moved him that what would he be willing to do if one of his daughters was tricked or coerced and found herself in the sex industry? He said he would do absolutely anything and everything he could do as a dad to ensure justice for his child. And so that began the seed in his heart to plant the organization Destiny Rescue. And today it's grown from just his family to about 250 staff worldwide. We're in 9 countries. We've rescued hundreds and hundreds of children and helped keep out lots and lots of children and families on top of that through our prevention efforts. So the countries that we currently work in is Thailand, Cambodia, Laos, India, the Philippines, and the Dominican Republic. And as our organization continues to grow and we feel a stirring to go into a next country, we're weighing statistics and just the need and our ability to help in those countries, and we will pick the next country to go into. But our mission, again, is to ensure kids around the world do not have to endure a night of abuse and slavery in the sex industry, but they can live out their destiny and freedom. And that is absolutely the heart of Tony Kerwin. I worked with him closely in Thailand, and every time he talks, he tears up about this issue and knowing that if he can spend one more night out rescuing, he can ensure justice for one more child.
Yeah. Well, I'm so thankful that he was moved to start this and that he's moved to continue it. One of the things that strikes me about that piece, Red Shoes, is you see him be very honest about having a bit of a feeling of helplessness while he is on a mission to rescue one child when he's seeing that another is being taken into a room and obviously her shoes have been left behind. I wanted to ask, did you ever deal with feelings like that, feelings of helplessness while you were in that situation, helping to rescue children? And how do you handle those feelings?
Absolutely. And that is a great question. And the answer is yes. I would be undercover in brothels and I'd see 60, 70-year-old men doing horrific acts to children. And you're undercover. And, you know, if you blow your cover in the moment, you could risk your life and the life of the girl and others on your team in those dark environments. And so, you know, as much as you want to go and just pound in the door and just beat these people up, you have to go about it the right way so that the safety of the child's our utmost concern and the safety of our team and those involved. And so I would leave at times feeling wrecked. Like, you know, I wish I could do more in this situation. And I just have to trust that we are at work, we're doing our very best, and our heart and mission is to provide freedom as quickly as possible to any one of these children. I did experience difficulties emotionally, but I would always talk with other rescue agents because they understood what you're going through. I think it's probably similar to being in war with other military people, like civilians. They just couldn't understand what you just came through as a vet or a person who had just endured horrific war, and you seeing your brothers killed or blown up and injured. They came back with a lot of emotional challenges. And for me, not everybody is a person of faith, but for me, I relied on God and I looked to him and said, and just really began to pray, God, help bring justice to these kids. And, you know, it's amazing at how frequent we were able to bring justice to victims. And so everyone deals with trauma differently, or the emotional challenges of things that you see and face. And that is a real issue for our team and law enforcement and others facing challenging situations on a daily basis.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so happy that you guys are able to rely on each other and have a network of support like that, because Tony's been doing this for years, and you could see how much he was moved by that particular instance. And I'm sure every time you go out and do one of these rescues, you're having tough feelings to deal with like that. So it's amazing that you have your faith and good support with your friends to get through all that. I also wanted to talk about the fact that he noted that the girl that he rescued slept for more than a whole day, and that was a common occurrence, that these children, once they are taken out of those situations, can finally get rest and just feel like, you know, they're not working in a bed, that they're not going to be messed with, that they can just be left alone and just enjoy a night's sleep. And that probably moved me the most in that whole piece. And I just wanted to let you guys know that I totally share Tony's dream that children don't have to feel like they can't sleep in beds. And I hope that what we're doing here, just talking about this, just sharing this with all of you, will help motivate you guys to become part of the solution here, to help a great organization like this continue their amazing work of rescuing these children. So you touched on it a little bit earlier, but we didn't really get into the details. Let's talk about the two typical types of extractions and how they work.
Yeah, so we are a rescue organization. We do more than that. We do aftercare as well and prevention work, but we do rescue. We work in coordination with police to do what we call a hard rescue. And a hard rescue is where we become informants for anti-trafficking police or their equivalent to like the US FBI. In Thailand, for example, it's called the DSI. And we will work on gathering information so that police can do a raid and bring prosecution against whoever it is. And so we're working with police, we're working with lawyers to determine what information we need to gather to bring incriminating evidence against these traffickers or brothel owners or pedophiles that are taking advantage of these kids or women. And so that can take up to 6 months of coordinating with police and getting the needed intel to bring prosecution. And so all the while that's happening, kids are being abused. And so our hearts are breaking knowing that they're there another day, another week, another month. And so we've had many successful raids this last year, including our largest raid to date, which took place in the Philippines. We rescued 27 women, 24 of which were under the age of 18 in one raid. And we have had many, many successful raids in the Philippines where we're shutting down brothels, arresting brothel owners. During a raid that we recently were able to capture on film, one of the traffickers eventually found out she was caught, and she started moaning and groaning and complaining, just crying, knowing she was going to spend years and years behind bars. And I said, good for you. You know what? You should have thought twice about taking advantage of children and other women that you were like this, gaining all this income and wealth off of taking advantage of these children. And you should think long and hard and years in prison so that you'll never do it again.
Yeah.
And, that is our work. Our heart is to, when we do successful raids, it scares the living heebie-jeebies out of these brothel owners and pedophiles that are frequenting these places. And if we weren't able to bring prosecution in their brothel, they've heard there's like this underground network that when a raid takes place, especially a successful raid, it gets around like wildfire in that underground world. And they take children into hiding, and anybody they feel is a traffic victim into hiding. And so things go quiet for a season, but they usually will perk back up, maybe do something slightly different. And so we're constantly on the hunt for finding out how traffickers are trafficking these victims. And we've become very successful at doing it. And so that's what we call a hard raid. We also, because we don't want to leave children in these environments for 6 months, gaining intel, our heart is to ensure justice for them as quickly as possible. So we work independently from the police to do what we call a soft rescue. And that's where we go in undercover, posing as customers, gaining needed information to find out underage victims in the sex industry. And we will go from brothel to brothel to brothel, looking for underage girls. And once we believe we have found one, our goal is to build relationship with that girl. And as we build trust, get information from her to know if any other girls in the establishment are underage as well. And our heart is to provide rescue as quickly as possible. Now, there's some challenges when you're in undercover developing relationship with these girls. Why would they trust you? Good people don't go to these places. And so you're posing as a customer. The stark difference between a normal customer and let's say somebody like myself is we don't touch them inappropriately and we don't let them touch us inappropriately, even though they're trained to do that. We have ways of diverting the situation. That's a good word. Diverting the situation. And all of a sudden, they see there's something so different about you. They can't pinpoint what it is, but slowly seeds of hope begin to take root inside their heart, that when they're in your presence, they feel safe. And when you go back the next day and the next day, they run up to you and they give you big hugs, knowing that you're not going to take advantage of them, as they don't really know who you are, but they know that you're good in some capacity.
Yeah.
And one rule that we have as undercover agents is you can never mention our organization, or we can never mention our organization in a brothel and reveal ourselves to her in the brothel situation. And so there's ways of connecting with her. What we like to do is try to get her contact details, and so that we can begin talking on a phone, or inviting her. In some cases, these children have the ability to leave the brothel. They're not locked up, but they may be pressured by a parent to stay, or they may be psychologically controlled, so that they fear fleeing, but they can leave. So we may meet them for lunch at a undisclosed location. We might meet them at a hotel. And then that is where, once we believe there's enough trust there, we'll reveal our identity and who we are, and that we're offering you a better life and a way out. And usually tears streaming down their face. They say, yes, please get me out of this situation. I would love to have a better opportunity at a better future. We've had several girls, when we rescued them, they took paring knives to stab our agents if it would go south, if they saw that it wasn't everything they had hoped it would be. That's the risk they take. And so...
Yeah, it's important to point out that when we're talking about trafficking situations, the conditions that usually a girl, but this does happen to boys also, which I know we touched on a little bit the last time we interviewed. But the conditions that are keeping them there can be varied. They are extreme manipulation and control. You know, when we talk about trafficking in the U.S., a lot of it has to do with drugs. A lot of it has to do with getting them hooked on some type of drug, and then essentially they have to come to you to get that drug, and for that you're going to make them go and do this. But in the international, oh bless you, in the international situation, you're talking third world countries. You're talking, as you mentioned before, extreme poverty that is driving these situations. In some cases, the parents might be willing participants of the child actually going to these situations. Which is why it's so important that there is this type of aftercare, that there is a home that you're basically taking these girls to, that isn't necessarily back with their parents, because that might not be a good situation in many cases here. But it sounds like you have to treat these pretty much on a case-to-case basis to really kind of crack that mystery of what is the control mechanism for this particular person in this particular case, and to help them see around that, or to see outside of that, and to get that glimmer of hope. Absolutely.
Like, you know, so many variables and dynamics go into how a child ended up in the sex industry. And they've been lied to, they've been promised work in a safe environment. And as soon as they get there, all their documentation's taken from them, and then they're forced into the sex industry. Or their parents knowingly sell them to pay off a drug habit, to purchase a TV or a refrigerator or a car, just so that they can have a better chance at financial freedom, if you will. But they're taking advantage of one of their kids. Another challenge that parents face is all their children are starving. They have no, their income is not enough to send their children to school. And so they'll make a difficult decision to send one of their children to the brothel, usually a woman, a girl. And they will use that income so that the rest of their kids can get an education. Now, what does that do to the child that has been selected to go to the brothel? She feels worthless. And when you're dealing in Asian countries, when you're dealing with shame, honor-based cultures, that when a child loses her virginity or he loses his virginity, they become shunned or shamed in their family, in their community. In many of the countries, they can't get a job. They'll never marry. It makes it, they can't return home. And so no matter how the child ends up in the sex industry, if they divulge to their family what happened, it brings shame to their family. Americans or the Western world does not fully comprehend the weight of what that shame honor-based culture can do to a young mind when hoping that their situation will change, but they feel like that they have to earn an income for their family, and they've ended up in this horrific place. But if they shed light on what's happened to them, it could bring shame to their family. So they keep quiet in these horrific environments. So Destiny Rescue is rescuing them and giving them back their dignity. I have one story I would love to share.
Yeah, please do.
Johnny, there was a girl in India, came from a great family, but both parents passed away when she was young. And she was given to her mother's sister, her aunt, to live with. You would think that her aunt would provide parental supervision, would provide protection, would be the parent in her life that would ensure justice and protection for the child. But she treated this child like a glorified servant, made her do all these chores, all these crazy chores. And the child, Zara, felt horrible. She felt unloved and unwanted. One day, when she turned 12 years old, this aunt saw that she could make more money by selling her into a brothel. And she sold her own niece into a brothel at 12 years old. The first week that this child was in the brothel, this brothel owner, this woman, had her do all kinds of chores around the brothel. And then 6 days later, gave her son, who was an adult at this point, an adult man, allowed him to force himself on her to have sex with her. She fought him off with everything she could to keep this man off of her. The brothel owner, this woman, pretended to protect this girl and let her come live in her home for 10 months. All while every single week she was injecting this beautiful 12-year-old girl with hormones to cause her body to develop more quickly as a young woman. Wow. So 10 months later, she forced her into the sex industry where she was forced to have sex 10 to 15 times a day with customers. This beautiful girl, through the work of Destiny Rescue and law enforcement officers, conducted a raid and we rescued that beautiful girl. And today she's flourishing. We arrested the aunt and the brothel manager, and they're behind bars today. That beautiful girl has gone on. She feels loved and valued in our care. And she's getting an education. And she says her biggest dream was just to learn in life, not to be a servant to her aunt, doing crazy chores and to service customers all day. But the work of Destiny Rescue is ensuring justice for girls just like Zara all over our world.
Wow, that's amazing. Have there been any updates since our last chat in terms of Destiny Rescue? Any changes to the organization or?
There actually have. So the way we do aftercare has changed as we continue to rescue lots of kids. 620 kids last year and 485 the year before that. Since 2011, we've rescued over 2,600 children. This year alone, we've rescued 80 kids. We're learning better ways of providing aftercare and really meeting the needs of the child and the family. We have found that if you just meet the need of the child, when they get reintegrated back into their family situation, the family's perspective on the child situation may not match the way the solutions that we've provided for the child. And so it creates challenges when children are reintegrated. So we have found the best possible solution is getting the family involved with the child in the restoration and reintegration process. And so when a child is rescued, we used to, the option that we provided for families was they came to live in one of our safe homes. That was the only option. We found that many children were staying in the sex industry long after they should have, simply because we didn't provide enough solutions for these families. It's not a one-size-fits-all answer to these layered difficulties and dynamics of these family situations. And so if you're not truly meeting the need of these kids, but you're creating all these quote unquote safe homes to give yourself a pat on the back that you have, instead of 25 safe homes, now you have 50 safe homes. Is that really meeting the needs of these kids? So we took a hard look at how we can better provide solutions. So our caseworkers now, when a child is rescued, we go back to their village and investigate how a child ended up in the sex industry. If the parents did not knowingly sell the children and it's safe for them to return home, in other words, they're great parents. They just were struggling financially. So if we can provide a solution for the family, keeping the family intact, but providing a microloan for a family where you're providing income, sustainable income for the family, or we're working to provide a job in a city or in an environment where they can get gainful employment, then that helps provide stability for that family. And the child gets to go live at home, so you're not inducing further compounded trauma by them coming into a safe home they have no familiarity with, all these new people. You're actually reintegrating back with their family and providing a solution where they feel nurtured, loved, and valued by those that have taken care of them. So one of our options is called providing a solution for her home, going back to her family. And again, it's only if it is a safe place for them to return to. We also have another option where some children, they did not want to come into one of our safe homes. There were too many rules, or it was just the fear of the unknown. Some of these older young adults might be 17 years old or 16 years old. They were already living on their own. They came from a horrible family life, and they were supporting themselves, and they ended up in the sex industry. But they did not want to go into a safe home environment. So we said, well, what we could do is provide maybe an apartment type setting where we're paying for the apartment for 6 months. And we're providing counseling, vocational training, an education, anything and everything that they need to put their life back together again. And we'll provide a counselor in the either in the apartment complex, in a unit next door or close by, or in close proximity to that apartment. And we had one child we were working on for 2 years. She was too scared to come into one of our options of a safe home. But the moment we provided this opportunity, she jumped at it, and today she's flourishing. So 2 years later, we provided an incredible opportunity for her. And because we're meeting their need and their desire, we're able to provide better solutions for these young adults. Again, that opportunity, a new home model for these young adults, it's not for everybody. Our caseworkers and counselors and aftercare team assess every person's situation and make sure that it's a safe opportunity for them. So because we've provided those two new opportunities along with our safe homes, our success rate went from 70% up to 80%. Those both are incredible success rates, but we continue to provide real solutions for victims and their families.
Yeah, then that's a really important thing to point out is now you're going beyond just the rescue of the child and giving them a chance at a new and different life. The light of that great deed is now also hitting their family in some way, and their whole life, all of their lives can change while this big evolution is happening in their family with one of their children. It really goes to show, first of all, that you guys are being flexible. I mean, we've talked about how these situations are so dynamic, that you guys are evaluating yourselves as you're doing this. I mean, trying to improve on a 70%. I mean, I think 70% is pretty dang good in terms of a success rate for what you guys are trying to do, but to bump that up to 80 is quite honestly amazing. And it just, once again, shows that this is an organization that is taking the steps to really do this right on a case-by-case basis and figure out these new methods, like with the apartment building. I think that's brilliant.
Thank you. I have a really cool story. This last year, we rescued a girl in Cambodia. She was 15 years old. She ended up in the sex industry, and we rescued her. Our caseworkers went out to her village to discover how she ended up in the sex industry. We found out that she actually came from an incredible family that loved her, that believed in her, that supported her. But her father fell ill and went into the hospital and died. And they accrued a hospital bill of $2,200. The mother went out looking for work, having to become the sole breadwinner in the family. She was a stay-at-home mom, supporting her children while her husband worked. Now she went out, she found a job picking mangoes, working every day, making only $38 a month. $38 a month, $2,200 debt. She made the difficult decision to send her daughter out to go look for work, where she was easily tricked and coerced and found herself in the sex industry. When we went back to the village and found out the mother's situation, we found out she was a loving mother that loved her daughter. We found out that she was a gifted cook, but she had no money to purchase a food cart to create opportunities for making money around the village by carting around food and selling it. So Destiny Rescue said, you have vision, you have passion, you just don't have opportunity. We're going to provide you a microloan. We provided a microloan, and she went from making $38 a month to $220 a month, almost 6 times what she used to make. Her daughter is in our care in our sewing program, flourishing, learning vocational training, gaining the needed tools and skills so that she can get a dignified employment opportunity. And so that is the work of Destiny Rescue. It's not just caring for the child or caring about that she's rescued out of the sex industry. No, it's meeting the root causes of why the child ended up there so that they can be strengthened as a family unit and they can go on living incredible lives in their future. And so that's what Destiny Rescue is doing every single day.
Awesome. All right, Cory, we are now going to get to viewer-submitted questions, and I just want to thank everyone that submitted these questions. A lot of caring people and a lot of people that are concerned about these children, in some cases even concerned about their own children. Jalen H., Cassandra Lauberecht, and Haley Anderson all kind of asked the same question. But the main thing they're asking is, how are the traffickers picking these children? How are they selecting these particular children? And basically, is there anything, and I think they're talking more about here in the US, but perhaps you can speak to this as well. Is there anything that they should be telling their children, telling their loved ones, if they have family members that are traveling to these countries? Is there things that they need to watch out for? How are these children selected? How are they picked?
That's a great question, Johnny, and I'd love to answer that question. So here in the United States, the number one at-risk person in the United States is the foster care child. Again, you're dealing with the instability and breakdown of family. The reason they're in the foster care system is because the government has deemed that these children are not safe in their own homes with their parental supervision, whether they're adopted children or whether they're their own biological children. The government has said, you no longer are fit to care for these kids. We're going to provide a solution or try to work with you so that you can get your kids back. But in that process, kids feel unloved and unvalued. They're not getting the emotional support and stability they need to function in life. A set of parents that love them unconditionally. You know what? Even children, and I want to be careful how I say that, because there's a lot of well-meaning parents that their children may have ended up in the foster care system through a set of very difficult circumstances. It's not because you don't love your child. And I'll give you an example of that. Parents may divorce, and now all of a sudden, a single mother's taking care of her children. She's working 2 or 3 jobs, and she loves her children so much, but she is not there at home for the emotional support of her children. So they're starving for love and affection. She's doing everything she can to provide that for them. So those children, many times when they get teenage years, are looking for love and affection. And so traffickers and gang members that are trafficking women, they know how to prey on the vulnerability of people that are starving for love and affection. And they don't need 100. They need one person that they can target and take advantage of, and now they become this cash person. The majority of victims in the United States, according to this one lawyer that dealt with human trafficking cases, the victim didn't even know they were being trafficked. They thought it was their boyfriend that loved them, but was willing to sell them and take advantage of them on a daily basis. And so it may be the foster care system, it may not. It may be single parents, or just your home life creates vulnerability and that emotional need for love and support. Overseas, traffickers prey on poverty. Poverty is a huge issue. And so they prey on the vulnerability of families sending their children out looking for work, maybe 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 years old, 17 years old. They've left the village for the first time, and their parents have been promised that their child can work in a respectable restaurant. And so the traffickers are preying on the naivety of their families and the desperation that they're in. The parents are believing the best, but probably in the back of their mind, they would not choose their daughter to go work 6 hours away from home had they had opportunities for better income opportunities. And
you made a really excellent point that, quite honestly, I really haven't even considered or heard too much brought up when you're talking about trafficking like this. But there has to be a control mechanism. And the control mechanisms typically are going to be money, it's going to be love, or it's going to be drugs, which is kind of related to money, but also altered mind states and happiness, maybe you could say.
Yes.
Are there anything outside of those categories that you see as control mechanisms for trafficking?
There definitely are. I mean, I would say, depending on the country you're in, there's cultural norms that creates vulnerability. For example, in India, the caste system is a big part that plays into this. Right. It's built off a 3,000-year-old Hindu practice where, depending on what family you're born into, determines the caste you're in. And there's upper caste and there's lower caste. And then there's a caste that's not even considered a caste. It's called the untouchables or the delete. And their lot in life, they can become street sweepers, or they can become they clean toilets, or in an employment opportunity like that. In many places, whether it's rural or in certain areas in India, they're not even treated as human beings. And that creates vulnerability. They can't always get the same level of education or the same job opportunities as somebody else. And then this is also a cultural norm in India, which is shame honor again. When a child loses their virginity, if they would return home from they were literally trafficked into a brothel. And not every family is this way, but this is a predominant belief system in Hindu culture that they are shunned from their family. They will be kicked out, left on the street, and many times they end up right back in a brothel situation. So again, it's a cultural and sometimes religious belief system that creates vulnerability. Now, India has they're making a lot of progress, so they're not doing everything bad, and they've made enormous progress in terms of providing more opportunities in terms of the caste system, but it is a pervasive way of thinking in many people's mindsets that creates vulnerability. There's temple prostitutes. There's a term in India, I believe it's called jaganan or something like that, where a child at the age of 6, 7, or 8 is given to the temple goddess to become a temple prostitute. And when they reach pubescent age, they are taken to this temple and they have to have sex with people. They don't get paid. They just, no matter who it is, they just get a comment, and it is their lot in life to service people that want to have sex. Many times they're handicapped children and coming from one of the low caste systems. And it's irrevocable, meaning in their way of pervasive thinking, many times if a child would be rescued and if it was found out in their community, the community will pressure their parents to send her back into that environment because she has been represented as a temple prostitute to the sex goddess or whatever. We are rescuing kids like that today in India, and we're rescuing children that find themselves in horrific environments that, because of culture and prevalent ways of thinking in certain societies, it keeps these children in these vulnerable situations. So we're rescuing them, and our caseworkers are finding solutions that will help them go on to live incredible, productive lives in society once reintegrated.
Another question for you on this, and I don't know if you can speak to this as much. Cassandra Laberecht was trying to bring up the point that she's got a daughter who wants to go on a class trip to Costa Rica. She's concerned because there's only 2 chaperones that are going with the group. And she wants to know, is there anything that she could warn her daughter about, or anything that she should be giving her in terms of safety tips? And I'm curious, has Destiny Rescue run into any people that were captured that are international? Like, have you found any Americans that were in these brothels, like essentially children that would have been kidnapped at some point?
We've not found any like Americans or Australians. We found children from other countries, like more of the developing world. So like if from Cambodia trafficked into Thailand, or from Nepal into India, from Haiti into the Dominican Republic, that kind of thing, but never a Western person.
Cyanide 77, an old school brain scratcher, he's been in front of the channel for a long time, has a question for Cory. When trafficking is done purely for profit, I would assume most of the time it's purely for profit, who are the primary people behind it? In these busts, is it getting to, like, there's a brothel owner? Are there networks above that? Is it a criminal network? Who are the people that are ultimately behind these operations, and are you guys trying to address them at all?
It's all the above. I mean, the issue of human trafficking is a $150 billion a year industry. It's the fastest growing illegal enterprise in our world today. 99 billion of it is specific to sexual exploitation. So by far the most lucrative form of trafficking is sex trafficking. And you can reuse a person over and over and over again. And because there's such demand in our world for sex, purchasing sex, traffickers, organized crime, and individuals that just want to make a quick buck will take advantage of people. And sadly, because in many of the developing countries that we work in, there's lax laws. And so when a perpetrator is actually convicted, many times there's corruption where they can pay to get out of jail quickly, or pay to have a law enforcement officer turn a blind eye to it, so they go on free of charge while others are exploited. Or the laws in place are not strict enough to hold people long term for the crime that they've committed against victims. And so it creates challenges, and that's what creates opportunity, because they know that more times than not, they're going to get away with what they're doing. So when organizations like ours are bringing to light this issue, and Johnny, with shows like yours that are bringing to light this issue, it's informing people to get involved in a way that they can help make a difference. So awareness creates opportunity, that creates holding people accountable, or the more we know, like I said earlier, knowledge is power. The more people know, the more they can act and make a difference.
Absolutely. Lexi Unicorn asks, I'm based in the UK, but travel a lot to Spain and Morocco, etc., hoping to go to Thailand and India this year. Is there any way that travelers can help? Are there any signs we should look out for? Any other ways we can help your cause? We're going to talk about a whole bunch of different ways that you can help the cause at the end of this video. But specifically, if you have someone that is traveling to areas where this might be happening, is there something they could do to help?
Many times when you're traveling around the world, sometimes we feel invincible. We feel like our intuition radar goes down at times, and we just feel like we can conquer the world and nothing ever bad is going to happen to me. And I would say if you're traveling internationally, especially in the developing world, Thailand, India, Cambodia, and many other places, you want to have heightened senses and be aware of what's happening. If you're staying in tourist areas and you're always around lots of people, that's a pretty good sign. But if you're going near red light districts and stuff, I would be very careful. They're not good places. They're seedy places, and people are looking to take advantage of people. And don't stick out like a tourist. Like, try to fit in as much as you can. Obviously, depending on who you are, your nationality and stuff, you might stick out more so than others in different cultures, which is fine. But just be a wise person when traveling. If you do spot something that you think is suspicious, see if you can contact law enforcement in that country. I think is probably the best way. There are many times there's tourist police in tourist areas that speak English, or at least a level of English that probably you could tip off somebody. That would be your best bet.
Yeah, Lexi, I think we want to leave this type of work to people that are really experienced in doing it. I mean, I can tell you from the stories that Cory and I have talked about, some of these cases are literally like they go outside, there's a guy waiting on a motorcycle, they jump on the back of the motorcycle and they are off. I mean, it is, that's why at the start of this video, I was talking about them being superheroes. The stuff that they're doing is dangerous. It's inherently dangerous. So, I think Cory's making a great point. Keep yourself safe, keep your family safe, keep your awareness up, stay to safe areas. Don't go looking for trying to help with this problem necessarily with your own hands in this way. There are other ways that you can do that, and that's really by supporting organizations like Destiny Rescue. They have so many different great options for supporting them that we're going to get to here very soon. But yeah, keep yourself and your family safe ultimately. And then, as Cory said, if you see something that you're a little concerned about, the local authorities are your best bet in that case, and hopefully they can act in a way that is meaningful. Sophia Torv says, I live in Uruguay, South America, and I'm a med student. I'm sure I've come across someone involved or a victim of human trafficking. What signs should I look for? Is there anything I can help with? Do they have contacts here? Do you guys have any contacts in South America?
At the moment, we do not. So I would, if I were her, do some research, like definitely law enforcement. You want to make sure you're talking with good people. Not every law enforcement officer, as we've learned, is really involved in helping victims. I mean, they're part of the problem. And so, especially in the developing world, so make sure you're talking to good law enforcement. Do some research in your area, how you could find the right number to call and provide help for the victim. If you are a nurse and you have a victim potentially that you think may be being trafficked, many times they're not allowed to speak. They have somebody doing all the speaking for them. And it's so if the person that you feel may be being trafficked, if they have somebody there with them that does not let them talk for themselves, many times I've heard cases here in the United States where health officials will say it's against the law or something for you to be in the room while I check their vital signs for something, and you make up something, and then that causes the person to have to leave the room, and then you can ask some questions. Do you need help? Is this something that we can help you with by tipping off the police and having them come in immediately? And so there's ways to do that. I would research that online, how health officials spot human trafficking, I think is your best bet. But I have heard stories of nurses and that take that approach, saying that you can't be in here in this situation for, we have laws in place that she needs her privacy. And then you can go about asking the right questions. Many times they're scared to speak up. They've been tricked or manipulated or coerced or threatened that if they do. So you just want to be careful. I always like to involve law enforcement when you can, because these are dangerous situations and you could cause the victim to be in a worse off situation if you're not doing something appropriately that would trigger the trafficker to do something crazy.
Cory made a great point. You don't want to risk this child's safety any further than it already is. So once again, with these situations, it's really about trying to get the information into the hands of people that can act on it and do that appropriately. I know I have another message here from Between Two Bridges that talks about that they worked as a law enforcement official in airports, and they saw people that they thought might have had children that were being abducted or trafficked in some way. They tried to tell their management about it, and of course nothing was done, and time is of the essence in these cases. It is, however, acting in the moment in an unsafe way can really jeopardize that kid's life. So we definitely don't want that to happen. And it's tough because even looking through all your comments, I'm getting this big sense that you guys want to help. You guys want to be part of the solution in terms of helping these cases. And I'm with you. I feel the exact same way. If I saw something weird that was going on, I would want to find a way to end it immediately. But it is a matter of being smart and being calculated and getting the right partners. I mean, that's one thing that I can certainly understand from all of our talks with Cory, is they are coordinating with government officials, they're coordinating with local law enforcement, they're coordinating with lawyers where they have to. These are massive teams, counselors, the house mothers. These are teams that they are pulling together to execute these extractions. You, as one caring citizen, might not have the resources to really create a good outcome in that situation. So, but can you guys help? Yes, you absolutely can help. And that's where I'm going to turn it over to Cory. Cory, do you want to share your desktop and show us the different ways that we can donate to Destiny Rescue and help you guys continue to affect these changes?
Absolutely. I would love to. John, can I make one more comment regarding this? If you're in the United States, there's a number. It's an anti-trafficking hotline number. It's 888-3737-888. You can call that number, again, 888-3737-888. And any tip-off that you have or something that you think is suspicious, that will go to law enforcement. They will contact local law enforcement in that area to investigate the tip-off that you've had. And I think hundreds, if not thousands, of tip-offs have been made and have led to successful rescues. So please do that. Also, regarding when I first started getting involved in this issue, before I started working for Destiny Rescue, I went on a trip overseas and went to a red light district, and I saw a girl that looked underage, and she looked really sad. And I went up to her thinking I could help, and the next minute she was being carted off somewhere because she looked sad, and I brought attention to the situation. And it probably ended up worse for her than better. And so, again, Destiny Rescue is an international organization that is on the forefront of this fight. We've rescued hundreds and hundreds of children, over 2,600 children since 2011. And we have understood what it takes to resource them well once rescued so that they're not in a worse off situation than before. So help out in a way that makes sense. Contact law enforcement if you can, or organizations like ours if you can. And then we'll work together to ensure justice for these kids. So a way that you can get involved, I would love to share multiple ways for that. So I'm going to share my screen right now. And what you see is our website. And if we go back to the front page, there's many ways that people can get involved in our organization. And like I said, we talked about rescue. The average cost it takes Destiny Rescue to rescue a child out of sexual slavery is $1,500. So for $1,500, you literally could see a life like Zara, the girl I mentioned in India, rescued out of that horrific situation, and then begin to take steps towards being made whole and well in our aftercare program. If that's you, if you're a business person or you have some deep pockets and you would like to contribute to make a $1,500 rescue, you can do that directly on our website on Ways to Give. You just come down to the bottom here, rescue a child for $1,500, and you can do that. If you don't have the income to do a rescue and you have a group that a sphere of influence, it could be a book club, you could be a biking club, like bicycling, running, a small group, a church group, a faith-based community group, and maybe you guys will pool your resources together to help rescue a child. You could literally see a child rescued and really given back her dignity. Or you can make a one-time general donation. You can do that right here. Again, it's really simple. Ways to Give, general donation. We do have other things like sponsoring a home, which I mentioned last time, but our organization is getting smarter. Instead of supporting just one of our homes, we have come up with a new way of how individuals can partner with us. And that is, you can become a rescue partner for any monthly amount. So if you don't have a lot of money, but this is stirring your heart to get involved, for $5 a month, for as little as $5 a month, you can help be part of us rescuing and restoring kids on a monthly basis. Every month, you're part of helping us go out and rescue children, see them healed and restored in our aftercare programs, and then reintegrated in flourishing lives. If you have $15 or $25 or $100, everybody's yes is different. So the key is that you are playing the part that you feel compelled to be a part of. When you become a rescue partner, what you're going to get is regular updates on our rescue, restoration, and reintegration efforts. So you're going to hear stories of rescue like Zara. You're going to hear stories of restoration and families being healed and reunited, like the story of Bottom that I read, and her mother being given an opportunity to receive a microloan that changed her family situation and for them to flourish in life. So if you want to do that, basically, it's a new program for us. So the way to get there is to simply click on Become a Rescue Partner, and that will take you to Become a Rescue Partner page, and you can sign up for a monthly amount. And we need an army of people that will join with us, that will link arms with us, consistently moving forward. And so if your heart is really being stirred for this issue, one of the greatest ways you can give financially to us is monthly partnership, because that allows us to do what we do day in and day out. And we have heroes that are linking arms with us, like you, that will help us to continue our mission to end child sexual slavery and see that every child on our planet has an opportunity to live out his or her destiny free of abuse in the days ahead. There's also, if you're interested in joining us on a team trip, under the Get Involved section, there's the team trip opportunity, overseas team trips. I'll go there now. And here you can see, as you scroll down, upcoming trips. Here are the dates for our most recent trips in 2018. Our 2019 trips have not been made available yet, but they will be. This is where you find those dates. Team trips are an incredible way for people to experience our work on the front lines of where we're rescuing and restoring children. You'll visit many of our safe homes in Thailand and Cambodia, and you'll visit a red light district where trafficking is known to exist. You're relatively safe. You're just walking through a red light area. You're not going into any establishments. But what we want you to see is a stark contrast of these seedy environments or these areas contrasted to the incredible work in our safe homes and our aftercare programs. The kids are flourishing. You would never know that they came from this environment, because our caseworkers and counselors, our life course class teachers, and our house parents are infusing love and care and the nurturing these children need to bounce back and to go on living productive lives. So our team trip coordinator will train you and teach you everything that you need to do to feel safe. We have in-country staff, a team trip leader that's in-country in both Thailand and Cambodia that will walk with you through the whole trip, and that will be your guide. Plus, usually you'll have a member from the United States. Our team here in the U.S. will also accompany our teams from the U.S. that are going over to visit our work. They're incredible, life-changing opportunities, and not only will you feel safe, but you'll feel empowered once you leave the work of Destiny Rescue. You'll be empowered on how you can get involved in a greater capacity once you return. So
is that kind of the primary type of person that would take this trip, is someone that would be considering working for Destiny Rescue, or are the trips also like a fundraising opportunity at the same time?
It's not really a fundraising opportunity, but they are vision trips. So not everybody's yes to their involvement. Yes, I want to put my hand up to be involved in the organization, is I'm going to move overseas to work as an overseas volunteer for us, or come on staff in Destiny Rescue USA. But they might leverage their sphere of influence in the United States. Maybe they're a business owner, or maybe they are gifted at fundraising, and we would help empower them stateside to be able to do what's in their heart to help further the cause of our organization and whatnot. So there's a lot of great ways people can get involved with us. But certainly, if you have a real heart for this issue, going on a team trip, they're life-changing. And if you're interested in learning more, you can click on the button to the left. If you're interested in applying to go on a team trip, you can apply directly online here. There's a $250 deposit to ensure your spot on the team trip. So go ahead and do that. A 2-week team trip is $3,500 that goes to Thailand and Cambodia. You'll visit our rescue homes. It includes all your international airfare, all your domestic and international flights once in Asia. It includes all your transportation, your food, your lodging, really the entire trip. The only thing extra you would bring is for souvenirs and to go to night markets and purchase things that you want to for extracurricular fun, if you will. So that's team trips. We mentioned the last time some ways, some smaller ways that individuals can get involved, and that is through our gift catalog.
This is by far my favorite section. I love how this section is broken out. I love that you can contribute individual gifts to this process, and it also gives you kind of a great idea about what this process is. Of course, last time Cory was on, we wound up purchasing 10 rescue packs, courtesy of the channel and my amazing Patreon supporters. You can see, I mean, that's essentially a pack that the child gets as soon as they've been rescued. That includes some simple toiletries, some things to make them feel like a person again. Outside of that, you can see they've got feed a child, rescue a child. I don't think I saw this option last time, but help cover birthing costs for a pregnant girl. Yep. Just it's amazing the ways that you can help these people, and you can kind of choose which way you want to directly help them through this page. And then, of course, Cory, we've also got the shop where you can actually buy items that have been made by people that have been rescued through this program. And these items are largely jewelry, but you can see they've got all kinds of different types and styles, different price points, just another way that you can directly support the efforts and the individuals that have been rescued through this. I think it's really, really cool.
Yeah, so all the jewelry's been handcrafted by girls we've rescued out of sexual slavery. It's one of the vocations or trades they can learn when they enter into one of the aftercare programs for Destiny Rescue. Some of the other aftercare vocational trades that we offer is hairdressing. They'll go through a pre-hairdressing program with Destiny Rescue, and we will help them go on to get licensed from one of the state or country accredited programs. Will help. They can become a barista, a cook, or waitress, and work in one of our training cafes. They can become a seamstress and learn to make all kinds of incredible things. We actually partner with a designer jean company that employs many of the girls that we rescue. One of the vocations or trades or employment opportunities that we will help reintegrate them into is with an organization called Outland Denim, and they make designer jeans, but they employ girls that have been rescued out of sexual slavery. And so, which is pretty incredible. So there's a lot of great vocational opportunities that Destiny Rescue provides, and we even provide greater opportunities through government programs so that the children can ultimately meet the need, fulfill the dreams in their heart. But this is one of them.
Cory, do you want to switch back to the camera view so people are not just looking at me?
Perfect.
There we go. He's back. Well, thank you so much, Cory. I really appreciate you taking the time to be with us, to share all of this knowledge. I appreciate the work that you guys are doing. It is worth noting you guys are a 501c. I think you have finally been listed with Charity Navigator also?
That's correct. We have received our final audit that requires 7 years of 990s. We have done that. I think they're still in the process of rating us, but needless to say, we should be on there. And if we're not yet, we will be very shortly. It will be anytime. We have received our final audit, but we have an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau, GuideStar, ECFA, and now Charity Navigator. We're in the process of being ranked with them as well. But we want to ensure the utmost integrity when it comes to financial transparency and accountability. We get audited each year by an outside independent accounting firm. 80% or more of funds, we have a goal that will go to programs that benefit the children that we defend. And last year was 80.5% where we met that mark again, which is the A+ standard set out by the IRS and many of the watchdog organizations. Our audits and financial account information is directly on our website under the About Us section. So please go there if you have questions or want to know more information or dig in. We would be happy to help let you see that information. Our heart ultimately is to help rescue and to defend kids, not put money in our pockets, but so that the money really goes into programs that are benefiting kids. And so from the bottom of my heart, and Johnny and all of you viewers out there, thank you for taking the time to have us on your show to bring to light this issue and really to inspire people just like you to get involved with us. We would love for you to, if you have more questions in the days ahead, reach out to Johnny. He'll get me that information. We'd love to get in touch with you.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Let me just say, last time you were on, we did the 10 rescue packs. This time, we're going to change it up a little bit. We are going to become rescuers. So thank you to my wonderful Patreon and PayPal supporters. We will be donating $25 per month perpetually to Destiny Rescue from here forward.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Johnny. It's awesome.
You're very welcome.
I don't think I mentioned the website, just in case if that would be a big fail.
I'll be having it pop up on the bottom of the screen as the video is going on. Perfect. But destinyrescue.org is where you want to go to check all this out.
Awesome.
All right.
Well, again, Johnny, thank you so much for having me on your show. We are just grateful for the impact you're making around the world. Thank you.
You got it. Thank you. Sit tight and I'll be right back with you. That's it, everyone. Our big interview with Cory Nickols, back for the second time to talk more about Destiny Rescue. Hope you guys learned a lot. I know I did. Some really good advice, some really good insight from someone who has very good experience in this area. I am more than certain we will have Cory back again. I also want to give a very big thank you to everyone that submitted questions. Unfortunately, I couldn't get to them all, but I appreciate each and every one. I did go through that entire list and looked at all of your questions and all of your other comments. And I just have to say that I really appreciated how you guys were handling the Florida topic. I love that you guys can have differing opinions and actually present them respectfully. I learned so much reading that thread. I just want to let you guys know that that is when I feel best about this channel, when I see a tough topic like that handled in that way. And that's why we have awesome guests like Cory come on this channel, because they know that we're going to be respectful like that too. So thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Johnny Vlogs. Have a great day, everyone, and I'll see you back here tomorrow on the Lord and Arch channel.